I gulped down 3 liters of water just to fill the last bit of space in my stomach, all because in our past life, my twin sister could transfer every calorie she consumed directly to me. She laughed while feasting voraciously on camera, becoming a famous competitive eater with an astonishing appetite, while I ballooned to 300 pounds, gasping for breath even while walking. I begged my fiancé through tears to believe me, but he shook off my hand in disgust. "You're just jealous that your sister can eat whatever she wants without gaining weight. Stop using that ridiculous excuse to justify your own laziness." Later, my sister did a live stream challenge eating 10 Big Macs in one go, all for the views. Meanwhile, I died of a sudden heart attack in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. When I opened my eyes again, I had traveled back to the day my sister signed her contract to become a food streamer, in the living room. My sister Scarlett was holding a gold-embossed contract, her eyes crinkling into crescent moons as she beamed. "Mom, Dad, I did it. Starglow Media sees my potential. They're going to make me the top foodie streamer." Her parents beamed with joy, showering her with affectionate concern. "That's my girl. Even as a child you could eat anything without gaining weight. This talent deserves to be showcased to the entire nation. Don't worry, Scarlett, the whole family has your back." Her fiancé Orion stood nearby, his gaze filled with undisguised admiration and affection for Scarlett. He walked over and affectionately ruffled Scarlett's hair. "I knew you could do it, Scarlett." Scarlett looked up with a sweet, innocent smile. "It's all thanks to you, sis." She suddenly turned her gaze toward me, curled up in the corner of the sofa. "If it weren't for my sister eating so much with me since we were kids, I never would have developed such a hearty appetite." In an instant, all eyes in the room were fixed on me. The approval in my father's eyes shifted to scrutiny. "Speaking of which, Iris, you should learn from your sister. Look how much weight you've gained." Mom's tone was laced with disdain. "Honestly, you two are practically identical twins, so how come your figures are worlds apart? If you had an ounce of self-discipline, you wouldn't be such an embarrassment for Orion to be seen with." Orion furrowed his brows slightly, and that familiar look of disgust resurfaced in his eyes as he glanced at me. I lowered my gaze, tightening my grip on the water glass. 300 pounds of weight, the suffocating grip of a heart attack, the ambulance's piercing siren, those agonizing memories are seared into my very soul, like a brand. In my past life, it was at this very moment that I hysterically tried to explain this bizarre truth to them. I told them that every single bite of high-calorie food Scarlett ate ended up as extra fat on my body, but not a single one of them believed me. They just thought I'd lost my mind, twisted beyond recognition by jealousy. "This time, I won't make that same stupid mistake again." I slowly lifted my head, forcing a pale and feeble smile. "Little sister, congratulations." My voice was soft, carrying a barely perceptible tremor. Scarlett's smile froze for a moment. She probably didn't expect that I wouldn't shed tears of self-pity over my parents' criticism like I used to. Orion seemed taken aback too, but he quickly chalked it up to me knowing my place. He walked over and looked down at me from his height. "Iris, I'm glad you've come around. Scarlett's career is just taking off. As her older sister, you should be supporting her, not causing trouble." His tone carried a condescending sort of tolerance. I nodded and said obediently, "I understand." To celebrate Scarlett's contract signing, we're going to Royal Taste Manor for a feast tonight. With a grand wave of his hand, Dad booked the most exclusive private kitchen in town without a second thought. Scarlett immediately cheered and clung to her father's arm, cooing affectionately, "Thanks, Dad. I want their Buddha jumps over the wall, don't pork hock," and she rattled off a dozen rich, heavy dishes one after another, each name making my heart clench as if squeezed by an invisible fist. In my past life, this very victory celebration sent the number on my scale skyrocketing by 5 pounds. From that day on, Scarlett's streaming career took off smoothly, while my health plummeted into an abyss. I watched her face, flushed with excitement, and felt a chill settle in my heart. "Scarlett, in this lifetime, it's your turn to taste this bitterness." At the banquet, exquisite dishes were served in an endless stream. Golden Buddha jumps over the wall soup, glistening dompa pork hock, and baked crab shells overflowing with crab roe. Scarlett's eyes lit up as she eagerly grabbed her chopsticks, looking as if she hadn't eaten for 3 days and nights. "Wow, this pork hock is so tender, it melts in your mouth. This crab roe is incredibly fragrant." She ate while making exaggerated exclamations of delight, making our parents and Orion watch her with beaming smiles. Slow down. No one's going to steal it from you, her mother said affectionately, placing a large piece of pork knuckle skin on her plate. Orion also thoughtfully peeled a shrimp for her, dipped it in sauce, and brought it to her lips. Our Scarlet is the cutest when she eats. The three of them looked like the perfect, happy family, and I just felt like an extra piece of furniture at the dinner table. The plate in front of me remained completely empty the entire time. I just took small sips of plain water. Scarlet kept shoving food into her mouth while stealing glances at me out of the corner of her eye. Noticing I wasn't eating anything, a calculating glint flashed in her eyes. She turned to face our parents and Orion, feigning concern as she spoke. Sis, why aren't you eating? Are you still upset about what Mom and Dad said to you earlier? Don't blame them. They only want what's best for you. It's just, you really should start watching your figure. Her words were so considerate, so understanding. The warm atmosphere at the dinner table instantly froze. Dad's face darkened. Iris, what's with the attitude again? We're just trying to have a nice family meal. Who are you trying to upset with that look? Mother furrowed her brow as well. Exactly. Scarlet was being so mature, trying to talk sense into you. And you're still being ungrateful. What? Are you trying to stage a hunger strike? Look at all that extra padding. Skipping a couple meals won't hurt you. Orion's gaze turned even colder, like ice. Iris, can you act your age for once? Scarlet is about to become a public figure. As her family member, could you try to be more mature instead of holding her back? The barrage of accusations was exactly the same as in my past life. Under the table, my fingernails dug so deep into my palms they nearly drew blood, but I didn't look up or argue back. I just clutched my chest, let out a stifled cry of pain, swayed unsteadily, and my face instantly turned deathly pale. My movement was subtle, but enough to draw everyone's attention. Scarlet's chewing faltered for a moment. Orion asked impatiently, what's wrong with you now? Gasping for air, a fine layer of cold sweat beaded on my forehead, my voice so frail it seemed on the verge of fading away. My chest feels so tight, I can't catch my breath. My stomach feels so bloated, I feel awful. I braced myself against the table while speaking, mimicking the motion of dry heaving. This was exactly how I felt right before my heart attack in my previous life. Scarlet's expression shifted for the very first time. She set down her chopsticks and stared at me intently. Her gaze held disbelief, confusion, and a flicker of panic she herself hadn't even noticed. My parents were startled by my reaction too. What's going on? You were fine just a moment ago. Are you faking it, just to get sympathy? Mom's tone was dripping with suspicion. I didn't have the strength to speak anymore, just curled up in agony, my breathing growing more and more ragged. Orion watched my ashen face and heaving chest, his gaze shifting from impatience to a flicker of uncertainty. She doesn't look like she's faking it. In the end, Dad made the final call. All right, that's enough, stop eating, we're going to the hospital. Though he kept grumbling under his breath, he still got up to support me. On the way to the hospital, Scarlet remained completely silent. She sat across from me, her gaze fixed on me as if trying to see right through me. She couldn't figure it out. She was the one eating, so why was I suddenly showing symptoms of indigestion, even heart palpitations? As for me, I just leaned against the car window, eyes closed, feeling that familiar heaviness and sluggishness in my body from the overload of grease and calories. Scarlet, this is just the beginning. I'll pay back every ounce of pain you've inflicted on me twofold. At the hospital, I was rushed straight to the emergency room. Registration, consultation, and a series of examinations followed. I insisted on getting the most comprehensive checkup, including an ECG, complete blood count, and especially tests for blood lipids and glucose. The doctor, a meticulous middle-aged woman, took one look at my slightly overweight frame and listened to my symptoms before writing up the order forms. While waiting for the results, Orion and our parents stayed outside. Their patience was clearly wearing thin. She's just making a mountain out of a molehill, probably got hypoglycemia from starving herself with this new diet. Mom complained impatiently. If the results come back clear, I'll give her a piece of my mind, always causing unnecessary trouble. Dad grumbled with a dark expression. Orion didn't speak, but his arms were crossed as he leaned against the wall, his furrowed brow saying it all. Only Scarlet sat on the bench, nervously twisting the hem of her clothes with restless, darting eyes. She's scared, she's afraid something beyond her understanding is happening. Soon after, a nurse came out holding a stack of lab reports. Is there family here for Iris? We are, Mom, Dad, and Orion immediately gathered around. The nurse's expression was grave. The patient's condition isn't good. Please come with me, the doctor needs to speak with you. Those words left all three of them in the corridor stunned. They followed the nurse into the doctor's office. I didn't go with them, but I could imagine what was about to happen. Sure enough, it wasn't long before my mother's raised, incredulous voice came from the office. What? Severe fatty liver, high blood lipids, and severely elevated blood sugar too? Doctor, are you sure? My daughter is only 22. My father's voice was also filled with shock and an irregular heartbeat. How is that even possible? I leaned against the wall, a cold sneer curling at the corner of my mouth. Absolutely possible. These results should have belonged to Scarlett, who had just devoured an entire table of high-calorie food. Now, they're simply being returned to their rightful owner. The door to the doctor's office swung open. Mom, Dad, and Orion walked out looking utterly dejected. Their eyes were fixed on me, filled with a mix of confusion and complexity. It was as if they were staring at a monster. Scarlett rushed forward and asked anxiously, "How did it go? What did the doctor say?" Mother's lips trembled, unable to form a single word for the longest time. It was still Orion, holding that report as he walked step by step towards me. His gaze was no longer just pure disgust. It now held a probing, scrutinizing quality. "Iris, what on earth is going on?" He waved the medical report in his hand. "The doctor said your test results resemble those of a 50-year-old who's been binge eating for years, but tonight, you barely touched your food." I looked up and met his gaze, my eyes conveying innocence and fragility. I don't know either. I've been watching my diet lately, only eating boiled vegetables every day and exercising for an hour. I don't understand why my body has become like this. I'm so scared. As I spoke, I managed to squeeze out just the right amount of tears. My words plunged Orion into even deeper confusion. Indeed, he saw with his own eyes that I hadn't eaten a single grain of rice all evening. How could someone on a normal diet suddenly produce such alarming medical test results? It simply doesn't add up. Just then, Scarlett suddenly spoke up. Her voice trembled with tears, full of grievance. "Sis, have you been sneaking food behind our backs? I know you're upset and jealous that I can eat without gaining weight. But you can't take it out on us by harming your own health." Her words were a masterclass in manipulative innocence. She not only absolved herself of any blame but also painted me as jealous, lazy, and a chronic liar. Sure enough, the wavering looks in Mom and Dad's and Orion's eyes grew resolute once more. "That must be it," Mom exclaimed, slapping her thigh as if she'd stumbled upon the perfect explanation. "I knew it. There's no way she could control her eating habits. She must have been sneaking junk food all along." My father pointed at me, his face filled with profound disappointment. "Oh, Iris, you've let us down so much, you just never learn." Orion's gaze towards me turned cold again. He slammed the medical report right onto me. "Iris, I really misjudged you. You'd go as far as hurting yourself and lying about it, just to get attention and embarrass your sister. You're absolutely despicable." Papers lay scattered across the floor like pale butterflies, mockingly settled at my feet. I looked at their faces, each etched with, "I knew it," and felt not a ripple of emotion. I had known all along it would come to this. Twisting the truth and confusing right with wrong is their favorite game. I didn't argue any further, just silently crouched down and picked up the report forms one by one. Then, I lifted my head and looked at Scarlett. She was hiding behind her mother, staring at me with a triumphant, challenging gaze. I gave her a silent, wry smile. "Scarlett, take it easy, the real show hasn't even started yet." After we got back from the hospital, the atmosphere at home turned ice cold. My parents grounded me, confiscated my phone and wallet, saying they wanted to completely eliminate any chance of me sneaking snacks. Orion went so far as to declare he wouldn't see me again until we'd both cooled down. They thought they had me trapped. Little did they know, the weapon I needed most was hanging right around my neck. It was a small, smooth white jade pendant. These were obtained by our grandmother who had someone pray for them when Scarlett and I were born, one for each of us. In my previous life, Scarlett said she preferred the design of my jade pendant and persistently talked me into swapping with her. Ever since then, the calories from her feasting have been steadily transferring to me. Not until my dying breath did I realize this jade was the very heart of the entire uncanny affair. After being reborn, the first thing I did was check my pendant. It was still hanging securely around my neck. Meanwhile, the piece hanging around Scarlett's neck was rightfully hers. I suspect these two jade pieces function like some kind of receiver and transmitter. Now I needed to figure out how to activate and reverse its mechanism. That incident at the hospital gave me some theories. Back then, before boarding the car, I pretended to lose my balance and steadied myself by grabbing Scarlett's arm. I was clutching this piece of jade tightly in my palm. Perhaps physical contact, combined with my intense focus, is the key to activating it. I need more opportunities to test this theory. The chance came sooner than expected. Scarlett's debut live stream got postponed due to my interference, but Starglow Media never gave up on her. They orchestrated an even grander live stream event for her. The challenge was to eat 10 buckets of extra spicy buldak noodles in 1 hour. For this broadcast, the company gave her a complete makeover and built up hype. Hashtag the slender beauty who never gains weight. Hashtag the most stunning face in the competitive eating world. Hashtag. A barrage of trending hashtags kept netizens on the edge of their seats. On the day of the live stream, Scarlett made sure to dress to impress. She was dressed in a pure white gown with flawless makeup, looking like an ethereal fairy untouched by mortal concerns. Yet beneath this angelic dress, a feast of decadent indulgence was about to unfold. Before the broadcast began, she came to my room. The door was unlocked, and she pushed it open without hesitation, her face radiating undisguised triumph. "Sis, you better watch my live stream later," she walked up to me. Looking down at my grounded self, the company got me the prime ad spot. "After tonight, I'll be a real influencer, and you, stuck in this tiny room like some filthy rat hiding from the light." She leaned in close, lowering her voice to a whisper meant only for my ears. "Iris, you know what? I love seeing you seethe with jealousy, unable to do a thing about it. Your suffering is my delight. Every ounce of excess weight on your body is a testament to my triumph." I looked up and watched her quietly. Her face, slightly contorted with excitement, began to merge with the memory of the demon who had driven me to my death. I remained silent, but as she turned to leave, I suddenly rose to my feet. "Wait." Scarlett turned around impatiently. "Now what?" I walked up to her and reached out, pretending to straighten her slightly disheveled collar. "Your collar's a bit wrinkled." The moment my fingertips brushed against her collar, my other hand clenched the jade pendant on my chest tightly. A chill radiated from the jade pendant, coursing down my arm as if seeping into my very fingertips. I channeled every ounce of hatred, every regret, every agony from this life and the last into this single moment. Reverse. Give back everything that rightfully belongs to me. Take back everything that rightfully belongs to you. "All done," I said, withdrawing my hand with a casual smile. "Wishing you a smooth live stream." Scarlett shot me a suspicious glance, but finding nothing out of the ordinary, she snorted coldly and turned to leave. I watched her retreating figure and let out a slow, measured breath. Then I walked over to the desk and booted up the old computer I was permitted to use, the one strictly reserved for online lectures. Scarlett's live stream already had hundreds of thousands of viewers online. The chat was flooded with messages of anticipation and admiration for her. "Scarlett's here. Looking gorgeous as always today, an angel eating fire noodles. What a magical scene. Can't wait to see Scarlett's eating capacity. Go for it." Scarlett greeted everyone with a sweet smile as 10 mountainous buckets of spicy Korean noodles were brought out. The sauce, so dark it was almost black, coated every single noodle. Just the sight of it was enough to send shivers down your spine. "Today, I'm going to take on the challenge of finishing them all." Scarlett picked up her chopsticks and declared triumphantly. Then, she grabbed a huge clump of noodles and stuffed them into her mouth. First bite, second bite, third bite, she ate quickly and with obvious relish, showing no sign of reluctance whatsoever. The barrage of comments was filled with astonishment. "Holy crap, she's eating that insanely spicy noodles without even batting an eye. Incredible. Is this guy's stomach made of iron? Scarlett, that's our girl," Orion topped the donation leaderboard, showering her with 10 carnival gifts that sparked chants of "Go brother-in-law." I quietly watched the screen, watching Scarlet gulp down those greasy, salty, high-calorie foods one mouthful after another, yet that familiar sensation of heaviness and greasiness didn't surface within my body. Instead, I felt an unprecedented sense of lightness and ease. I could even sense the long-accumulated fat around my abdomen slightly warming up, then gradually dissipating. It's working, it's actually working. My gaze returned to the screen. Scarlet had already finished her third bucket of noodles. Beads of sweat formed on her forehead, though she claimed it was from the spicy food, but I could clearly see it wasn't from heat. It was a greasy, cold sweat. Her complexion began taking on an unnatural, feverish flush. By the time she reached her fifth bucket, her pace had noticeably slowed. She started drinking water non-stop, and the smile on her face became somewhat forced. Some negative comments started appearing in the bullet chat. Why does it seem like Scarlet's struggling a bit? Yeah, her face even looks a bit swollen. Just my imagination. Maybe it's the spiciness. It wasn't my imagination. I noticed the waistline of her once loose white dress was beginning to strain. When she reached her seventh bucket, something suddenly changed. She suddenly covered her mouth as a loud, unmistakable churning erupted from her stomach. Gurgle, glug glug glug. The sound traveled through the high-sensitivity microphone clipped to her chest, broadcasting throughout the entire live stream. Everyone heard it. Scarlet's face instantly turned pale. She tried to suppress the wave of nausea, but her body's instinctive reaction was beyond conscious control. She abruptly pushed the table away and stumbled out of the camera frame. Immediately afterward, the sound of violent retching echoed through the live stream. The stream just cut out. After 3 seconds of dead silence, the entire chat exploded. Did I hear that right? Did the streamer just throw up? Challenged to eat 10 buckets, but threw up after only 7, and you call that a competitive eater? Bet those earlier trending searches were bought. Their persona crumbled way too fast. Used to be a fan, now I'm done. This is such a betrayal. Starglow Media, is this the best you can do? Hiring an actress to play a competitive eater, insults, mockery, and doubts flooded the screen like a tidal wave. Scarlet's first official live stream ended in a spectacular crash and burn. I turned off the computer, leaned back in my chair, and let out a long, deep sigh. A long-lost sense of lightness filled my body. I walked up to the mirror. The girl in the reflection had less puffiness in her cheeks, and her jawline looked a bit more defined, though still overweight. That unhealthy bloated appearance was gradually fading. I laughed. Scarlet, this is just the appetizer. You owe me, and I'll make you pay back every last bit with interest. Scarlet's live stream failure had catastrophic consequences. Hashtag Food Challenge Queen Scarlet vomits during live stream. Hashtag Starglow Media false advertising. Both hashtags shot to the top of trending searches within just half an hour. Scarlet lost over 100,000 followers overnight, with her comments section flooded with accusations of her being a fraud. Starglow Media's PR hotline was completely swamped. The house was in complete chaos that night. My father was pacing back and forth in the living room, fuming and repeatedly cursing useless under his breath. My mother held Scarlet, who had just scrambled back from the live streaming company, in complete disarray, her heart aching as tears streamed down her face. Scarlet was sobbing uncontrollably, gasping for breath between tears. Mom, I don't know what happened. I could still eat just fine, but suddenly my stomach feels so bloated and awful. It's all Iris's fault. She must be behind this. She jerked her head up, glaring at me with bloodshot eyes. She touched me before we went live. She must have done something to me. Here we go again. The same old blame-shifting routine. My mom instantly flew into a rage, charging at me with her hand raised to strike. You jinx, I knew it was you. You just can't stand to see your sister succeed, can you? You've completely ruined her future. I didn't try to avoid her. I just looked at her calmly. Mom, do you have any proof? My mother's hand froze mid-swing. Right, but where's the proof? All I did was touch her collar. How could that count as evidence? Should I announce to everyone that I have telekinetic powers to make people vomit? Who would believe it if we told them? You? My mother was at a loss for words. My father roared. What more proof do we need? Every single thing that's gone wrong in this family has been because of you. First the medical checkup, now the live stream. Iris, you're nothing but bad luck. Just then, the doorbell rang. Orion had arrived. He'd clearly seen the trending topic too. His face was stormy enough to wring out water. Scarlet threw herself into his arms, sobbing as if he were her savior. Orion, my career is ruined. Sob. It's all my sister's fault. Orion held her, whispering words of comfort, but the look he gave me was filled with icy disappointment and finality. Iris, we need to talk. He called me out to the balcony. The evening breeze was cool, sending a slight chill through me. Iris, let's call off the engagement. He came straight to the point without a moment's hesitation. I felt completely unfazed, even somewhat amused. In my past life, he did the same thing. He abandoned me without a second thought when I needed him most. Why? I asked. Already knowing the answer, why, he let out a cold laugh, as if I'd just told the world's most ridiculous joke. Just look at yourself, overweight, lazy, narrow-minded, and consumed with bitter jealousy toward your own sister. Now look at Scarlet. She works so hard, radiates positivity, and gives her all to pursue her dreams. You're not worthy of me, let alone the role of the future lady of the house. He spoke with such self-righteous conviction, as if I were the one who had committed some unforgivable sin. I must have been blind to ever think you were quiet and well-behaved. Only now do I realize it wasn't tranquility, it was gloom. You harbor an ugly monster in your heart that can't stand anyone being better than you. Iris, you make me sick. After uttering those final words, he turned and walked away without a trace of hesitation, watching his retreating figure. I suddenly spoke up. Orion. He paused mid-step without turning back. You'll regret this. My voice was soft, yet remarkably clear. What you're giving up today is the only chance you'll ever have to get close to the truth. Orion's shoulders stiffened, but in the end, he didn't look back and strode away purposefully. In the living room, Scarlet was still sobbing. Orion walked over and said gently to her, Scarlet, don't be afraid, I'm here for you. If that streaming company isn't working out, we'll just find another. My dad knows a board member at Grandera Entertainment. I'll take you to see him tomorrow. Grandera Entertainment. Scarlet's sobs caught in her throat, her eyes lighting up. Grandera Entertainment was one of the country's top entertainment giants, with at least 10 times the scale of Starglow Media. Really, Orion? Of course it's true. Orion affectionately booped her nose. Whatever you want, I'll make sure you get it. But, his tone shifted abruptly, his eyes turning fierce. We need to come up with a way to get rid of that problem for good. Their eyes all fell on me at once. I sneered inwardly. Deal with me? Fine, let's see how you plan to deal with me. The next day, Scarlet and Orion went to Grandera Entertainment. Meanwhile, my parents clamped down on me even harder. They went as far as installing a deadbolt on my bedroom door. I wasn't allowed to step foot outside except when they brought me meals. Frankly, I was perfectly content with the peace and quiet. I used this time to carefully study the Jade Pendant's abilities. I discovered that reversing this ability consumes my own mental energy. Each time I activate it, I feel a wave of exhaustion. Moreover, the reversal effect seems to be related to the distance between me and Scarlet. The closer the proximity, the stronger the effect, if it's activated indirectly through a charged object. The effect is significantly weaker and has a delay, just like during that spicy noodle live stream. Scarlet only snapped after eating 7 buckets. If I had been right there with her, she probably would have spit out the very first bite. I need an opportunity to get close to her for an extended period of time, and it has to be in a highly public setting where all eyes are on us. I'm going to ruin her reputation completely, with no chance of recovery. In the evening, Scarlet and Orion returned. Both of their faces were beaming with joy. Mom, Dad, Grandera Entertainment just signed me. Scarlet waved her new contract excitedly. They said my eat anything and stay slim metabolism is a huge talking point, and they're creating a reality show tailored just for me. What show? Mom asked curiously. Extreme Calorie Challenge, Orion explained from the side. The production team will invite nutrition experts and fitness coaches to monitor Scarlett's diet and physical data throughout the entire process. They want to prove to the entire internet that Scarlett is the chosen one, a true calorie black hole. The first episode's live broadcast location is set at downtown Wanda Plaza, with 100 audience members invited for on-site interaction. My heart skipped a beat. Wanda Plaza, a live broadcast, with 100 spectators. Isn't this the stage I've always dreamed of? Scarlett clearly had the same thought. She came to my door and said in a boastful tone through it, "Did you hear that, sis? To completely clear my name of those fake eating accusations, the company will be using the most advanced body composition analyzer throughout the entire live stream. It monitors my weight, body fat percentage, and muscle mass in real time, and all the data will be displayed on the big screen in the square. Let's see you try to pull any tricks this time. She paused, her tone turning icy. Oh, and by the way, Orion also convinced the producers to invite you as a special guest to witness my triumph in person. He said he wants you to see with your own eyes how I'll crush you under my heel on my way to the top. You simply must come, my dear sister. Their smug laughter echoed from outside the door. I leaned against the door and slowly closed my eyes. Heaven smiling down on me, Scarlet, Orion. I must say, I'm quite fond of this stage you've set for me. I'll give you, and every single viewer, a performance you'll remember for the rest of your lives. The live stream is scheduled for this weekend. That day, my parents dragged me to Wanda Plaza as if I were a prisoner being escorted. A massive stage had been set up right in the middle of the square. The stage backdrop featured a giant poster of Scarlet with the words, "Extreme Calorie Challenge, witness the moment of miracle." On one side of the stage, a high-tech-looking body composition analyzer was already set up and ready to go. On the large screen beside it, Scarlett's promotional video was playing on a loop. The square was packed with a massive crowd, media crews with their professional cameras, fans holding up light-up signs, and curious onlookers, all jamming the venue to capacity. I was seated in a family and friends section, just below the side of the stage, right next to my parents and Orion. Orion stood there in his bespoke suit, radiating confidence and every inch the successful man. He cast a disdainful glance my way and nothing more. Iris, open your eyes wide and take a good look. See for yourself just how big the gap is between you and Scarlet. I ignored him, my gaze fixed calmly on the stage. Soon, the host took the stage, and after a rousing introduction, the star of the show, Scarlet, made a dazzling entrance to thunderous applause. She was wearing a vibrant yellow form-fitting athletic outfit that accentuated her slender, graceful figure perfectly. She appeared brimming with confidence, her smile radiant. "Hey everyone, I'm Scarlet," she greeted the audience, setting off waves of screams. Following the procedure, her first step was to undergo an initial body measurement. She stepped onto the sophisticated instrument. Soon, a series of data appeared on the large screen. Height, 168 centimeters, weight, 45.0 kilograms, body fat percentage, 18.2%. All the numbers are absolutely perfect. The nutritionists and fitness trainers on site were amazed by the data, calling it a once-in-a-century perfect metabolic constitution. The fans went absolutely wild. OMG, Scarlet is an absolute goddess. These stats are insane. Haters, take a good look. Our Scarlet is the real deal. Bring on today's challenge. And now for today's main event, the Ultimate Calorie Challenge. The staff wheeled out today's main course. A mountain of calories, piled high with burgers, fried chicken, pizza, fries, and cola. According to expert estimates, this mountain of food contains over 20,000 calories in total. That's roughly the weekly calorie intake for an average adult woman. Scarlett's challenge is to finish eating all of this within 2 hours. All right then. Let the challenge begin. At the host's signal, Scarlet picked up a double beef burger and began her performance. She ate quickly yet gracefully. Every bite looked like it was straight out of a gourmet commercial. She effortlessly interacted with the host while eating, handling both with ease. Time ticked by. Burgers, fried chicken, pizza. The food on the table was disappearing before our eyes, yet Scarlet tappered completely unfazed. She remained slender and full of vitality. The real-time data on the big screen showed that her weight had actually dropped by 0.1 kilogram. Likely due to water loss, the entire venue erupted in excitement. Oh my god. She must have some kind of magical metabolism. She really can eat without gaining weight. That's unbelievable. Scarlet, you're my hero. My parents watched with beaming faces, swelling with pride. Orion shot me a triumphant look, his eyes brimming with undisguised mockery. See that, Iris? That's the truth. It's science. Your ridiculous lies can't hold up against the facts. I didn't look at him. My gaze remained fixed on Scarlet on the stage. My fingers tightened around the jade pendant in my pocket. The moment was almost here. Just as Scarlet picked up the final slice of pizza, ready to complete this epic challenge. I rose to my feet, I pushed through the crowd, step by deliberate step, making my way toward the stage. My actions immediately caught everyone's attention. Who's that woman? She's so heavy, looks like Scarlett's sister, from the family section. What's she trying to do? The security guards moved to stop me. But Orion gave them a look, signaling to let me through. He probably thought I was going on stage to publicly confess and apologize to Scarlett. What he wanted to see was me in this humiliating, disheveled state. I walked onto the stage and stopped just 3 steps away from Scarlett. Scarlett was about to take a bite of the pizza when she saw me and froze. A flicker of panic crossed her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by smugness. "Sis, what are you doing up here?" she asked with feigned surprise. "So you've finally come to your senses and decided to apologize to me in front of the entire nation?" I looked at her and smiled. "No, I came up here to give you a gift." As I spoke, I reached out my hand, not to touch her, but to point at the sophisticated instrument at her feet. "Scarlett, do you have the guts to step back on that scale right now and weigh yourself again?" My words left everyone speechless. Scarlett's face instantly changed color. She instinctively took a step back. What nonsense are you talking? I'm in the middle of a challenge right now. What's with all the testing?" Her fierceness was just a facade for her timidity. Down below, Orion furrowed his brow and snapped, "Iris, stop this nonsense. Get down here now." I paid him no mind. I just kept my eyes on Scarlett, closing in on her step by step. My hand remained buried in my pocket. Fingers clenched white-knuckled around the jade pendant that was now burning hot against my palm. I channeled every ounce of my mental strength, every shred of hatred, pouring it all into the artifact. This time, I wasn't settling for delays or half measures. What I demanded was instantaneous, explosive release. "What's wrong? Scared?" I smiled and continued walking toward her. "Aren't you the calorie black hole? Don't you have that naturally skinny metabolism? A mere 20,000 calories should be nothing for you, right? Or perhaps, the things you've been eating." I deliberately paused, then pointedly patted my swollen belly. Scarlett's pupils abruptly contracted. She shrieked like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "Shut up, you're insane." Her outburst cast an eerie tension over the room. The audience began whispering among themselves. What's going on? What did her sister mean by that? Scarlett's reaction is so strange. All the media cameras were pointed at us, flashbulbs going off like fireworks. Orion finally couldn't sit still any longer. He rushed onto the stage, trying to pull me down. "Iris, haven't you caused enough trouble?" Just as his hand was about to touch me, then, something unexpected happened. On stage, Scarlett suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream. She dropped the pizza in her hands, clutching her neck tightly with both hands, her face contorted in agony and terror. "My stomach. It's so bloated, it hurts." She bent over, her body beginning to tremble violently, under the horrified gazes of everyone. Her bright yellow, form-fitting athletic top began to swell rapidly and unnaturally at the abdomen, visibly expanding before our eyes, just like a balloon being rapidly inflated. Pop, a soft sound, the zipper on my clothes burst right open. Next, it was the pants. The seams along the thighs and waist of the tight workout leggings started splitting apart inch by inch. Ah! My legs, my waist. Scarlett stared at her own body in horror, emitting an inhuman shriek. Her limbs, her torso, her cheeks, every part of her was swelling at a frenzied, impossible rate that defied all scientific logic, and all of this happened in mere seconds. The girl who had a perfect figure just moments ago had transformed into a grotesquely bloated, flabby behemoth, a 300-pound colossus, even more massive than my current self by several sizes. The entire place fell into a deathly silence. Everyone was struck speechless by the bizarre and horrifying scene unfolding before their eyes. Only that sophisticated body composition analyzer remained faithfully at work. The data on the large screen began to fluctuate wildly. 45 kilograms, 60 kilograms, 80 kilograms, 100 kilograms, 120 kilograms, 150 kilograms, body fat percentage, 18%, 25%, 35%, 45%, 55%. Finally, the numbers stopped changing. Weight, 158, 8 kilograms, body fat percentage, 58, 9%, a shocking figure that poses a life-threatening risk. Scarlet collapsed on the ground like a puddle of melted sludge. Her clothes had been completely torn to shreds. She stared at the data on the big screen, then looked down at her own massive body, and finally broke down. No, this isn't me, this can't be real. Give me back my figure, give it back. She screamed like a madwoman, rolling on the ground. The audience below, after experiencing utter shock, erupted in an uproar like a landslide and tsunami. Oh my God, what on earth is going on? Is this magic? She gained 200 pounds in an instant, so all that food, those calories, they didn't just disappear, they were delayed. What a fraud. She's not naturally thin at all. She's a complete and utter liar. Angry shouts erupted from all sides, one after another. The deceived fans hurled their light boards and water bottles violently toward the stage. The scene descended into chaos. Orion stood completely frozen in shock. He stood frozen in place, his gaze shifting between Scarlet on the floor and me, his eyes filled with unprecedented fear and confusion. He remembered what I had told him before. You'll regret this. What you're giving up today is the only chance you'll ever have to get close to the truth. The truth. So this is the truth. His lips trembled as he pointed at me, unable to utter a single word for the longest time. You. And I just stood quietly in the center of the chaotic stage. I felt an unprecedented lightness in my body. I looked down at my noticeably slimmer waist and my fingers that were no longer so swollen. Then, I lifted my head and looked at my parents in the audience, who were equally stunned. Then he looked toward Orion, whose face had turned ashen. Finally, his eyes fell upon Scarlet, now just a blubbering heap of flesh wailing hysterically on the ground. I laughed, a radiant, deeply satisfying laugh. Scarlet, do you still love these badges of success you're wearing now? My voice, though not loud, carried clearly through the microphone and echoed across the entire square. Scarlet's wailing abruptly ceased. She lifted her face, its features blurred by obesity, and fixed me with an unblinking stare. Her eyes held a bottomless well of venomous hatred and terror. It was you did this. You're the one who gave me back my flabby flesh. Finally, it dawned on her. I slowly walked up to her, knelt down, and removed the jade pendant from around my neck. I dangled the jade pendant right before her eyes. Just figured it out, too late. Don't you love stuffing your face? Don't you enjoy watching me suffer? From today on, every bite you take will stay with you, permanently. Enjoy it to the fullest, my dear sister. Bask in this 300-pound glory that truly belongs to you. With those words, I stood up and didn't spare her another glance. I turned and walked off the stage, step by step, under countless gazes filled with shock, fear, or curiosity. Orion snapped out of his daze, rushing over and grabbing my wrist. His hand was trembling, his voice quivering. Iris, what on earth is going on? Tell me, it's not true, is it? He refused to believe that the angel he'd cherished all this time was actually a thief using sinister methods to steal others' figures. He was even more unwilling to accept that the fiancé he had always loathed and despised was actually the innocent victim. Staring at his face contorted with regret and anguish, I found it utterly ridiculous. I forcefully pried his fingers open one by one. Orion, I told you you'd regret this. The game begins now, and you've lost even the right to watch from the sidelines. I shook off his hand and walked into the chaotic crowd without looking back. Behind me echoed Scarlet's desperate screams, Orion's agonized murmurs, and the clamor of the entire world. And my world, like never before, is quiet. Story 2, the day before going back to my parents' home for the new year, my mother-in-law broke her leg. I had to return the train ticket home and do my best to take care of my mother-in-law. Unexpectedly, the extreme cold apocalypse arrived, and my husband's family actually forced me to go out and scramble for supplies. I managed to beg for some food, but my husband pushed me out of the door, and I was frozen to death. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn 3 days before the extreme cold apocalypse arrived. This time, I was living in a warm, safe house, eating braised goose in an iron pot, and watching with amusement as the scumbag's family fought each other bloody for the last bit of food. Who said this goose is old? This goose is amazing. When I opened my eyes, I was still a bit dazed. There still seemed to be a lingering pain of being frozen stiff on my body. A piercing cold swept through my whole body, and I couldn't help but shiver. Already cold, and you still want to go back to your parents' home? It's so cold there. It's much more comfortable to stay here. My eyes gradually focused and finally fixed on Logan's opening and closing mouth. Ava, it's already 5 o'clock. Get up and cook quickly. Mom heard that eating a certain part of an animal is good for the corresponding part of the body, so Mom wants to drink pig's trotter soup in the morning. It needs to be simmered over low heat for 3 hours. Hurry up and do it. Hearing this, I suddenly widened my eyes. I hurriedly took out my phone to check. It was the 28th day of the 12th lunar month. It took me a long time to come to my senses. I was reborn. Reborn 3 days before the extreme cold apocalypse arrived. We had originally agreed to spend the new year at my parents' home this year, but on the eve of our departure, my mother-in-law suddenly broke her leg. The train ticket home that I had managed to get with great effort had to be returned. I choked back my sobs and told my parents that I couldn't go back this new year. Although my parents said they understood, their forced smiles and their voices still made me feel sad, due to the pandemic. I hadn't spent the new year at my parents' home for 3 years. Now that I was reborn, who cared if that old woman's leg was broken or not? What's more, her leg was just faked. I didn't know until I was on the verge of death in my previous life that that damned old woman deliberately faked a broken leg to stop me from going back to my parents' home. Thinking of this, I wished I could tear the scumbag's family to pieces and throw them into the sea to feed the sharks, seeing that I didn't move. Logan frowned and pushed me. Why aren't you going yet? The whole family is waiting to eat. How are you being a daughter-in-law? I was immediately enraged. Is your whole family disabled? No hands or feet, all waiting for me to cook. Your mom's leg is broken. Are your and your dad's legs also broken? Did your family live on nothing before I married in? Seemingly not expecting such a big reaction from me, Logan was stunned. Before I liked you and was willing to swallow my anger for you and play the role of a virtuous wife and good mother, but now I don't like you anymore. You're nothing. I'm getting rid of you now. Logan looked at me in disbelief. Ava, what are you crazy about? But I ignored him and got up to take the suitcase and pack my things. New Year is coming soon. Where are you going? I simply spat out 2 words. Home, too. Logan immediately darkened his face and said unhappily, Ava, stop making a fuss. Isn't this your home? Where else are you going? Back to your parents' home, I retorted without even looking up. What parents' home? That's my home. I just don't understand. The place where my parents are is home. Why does it have to be called parents' home? Seeing that I didn't stop packing, Logan shouted at me angrily. My mom's leg is broken, and you still want to go back to your parents' home. Do you have any conscience at all? You're so unfilial, hee, trying to morally kidnap me. I gave him a cold look. That's your mom, not mine. If anyone should be filial, it should be you. Don't outsource your filial duty. Besides, if her leg is broken, take her to the hospital. I'm not a doctor. What do you want me for? Suddenly, the bedroom door was pushed open forcefully, and Logan's parents stared at me viciously. The old woman was the first to curse. Which married daughter goes back to her parents' home to celebrate the new year? Shameless, you're married. What does it look like to run back to your parents' home? Seeing his parents coming, Logan seemed to have more confidence. I've never seen anyone go back to their parents' home to celebrate the new year. Spending the new year at the husband's family is only natural. I didn't stop packing and coldly retorted, oh, then you haven't seen much. His father snorted. A married daughter is like spilled water. You're married and still want to go back to your parents' home to celebrate the new year. If the villagers know about this, they'll laugh their heads off. Are you all idiots? The Qing dynasty ended a long time ago. I picked up my suitcase and walked towards the door. Logan quickly came over to stop me. If you dare to go out this door today, I'll divorce you. But my steps didn't stop at all. Instead, I walked even faster. Great, divorce then. I have to look at your face just to go back to my own home for the new year. What's the point of this marriage? Seeing that I wasn't moved, Logan stepped forward and firmly held down my hand. His father also came over to grab my suitcase. Just when I couldn't resist them, the door was knocked loudly. 3. The old woman cursed in her mouth. Who is it, knocking so hard? Are you dying? With a bang, the door fell down, and a group of young men about 185 meters tall broke in. Dare to bully my sister? Damn it, I'll kill you. My cousin swung his fist and punched Logan, and Logan couldn't defend himself at all. The 2 old people kept shouting, why are you hitting my son? Stop it now. the first thing I did after being reborn was to send my location to my cousin who was also working in Haishur, asking him to come and save me. Unexpectedly, my cousin not only came but also brought his friends to support me. Looking at this group of 185-meter tall young men, I suddenly felt extremely safe. Little brother, don't beat him to death. It wasn't that I felt sorry for the scumbag, I was mainly afraid of implicating my cousin. The scumbag had a better way to die. Okay, sister. Then my cousin punched a few more times before stopping. At this time, the old woman also forgot to fake her broken leg and quickly ran over to check her son's injury. The two old people helped Logan to the hospital in a hurry. Before leaving, they didn't forget to say harsh words. I'll call the police and ask the police to arrest you. Seeing that I was a bit worried, my cousin quickly winked at me. Don't worry, sister, I know what I'm doing. They're just minor injuries. Even if they call the police, it's just a family dispute. I've already bought the tickets. Let's go quickly. Suddenly, I thought of something and quickly ran into the kitchen, opened the fridge and cabinets, and took out all the stored food inside. There was pork, red sausage, chickens, ducks and geese sent by my parents, as well as rice, noodles, oil, grains, and dried goods that I had stocked up. Due to the previous pandemic, I had developed the habit of stockpiling. The fridge was stuffed full by me, as if this could give me a sense of security. In the previous life, the scumbag's family survived the apocalypse relying on the food I had stocked up. This time, I won't leave them even a bit. Let them eat. Eat nothing. I directly gave all these stocked up food to these young men. I won't let the scumbag's family get any benefit. Immediately, my cousin and I rushed back to our hometown in northeast China without stopping. Before getting on the train, I called my parents and told them about the extreme cold apocalypse. I also sent them a stocking up list, asking them to buy things quickly. I also asked my cousin to notify our family to stock up as soon as possible. I got on the train home with great anticipation. At this moment, I suddenly felt that as long as the family was together, the end of the world was nothing to be afraid of. The next night, the train finally arrived at the station. The moment I saw my parents, my nose twitched, and tears couldn't stop flowing. In the previous life, I didn't know if they had survived this natural disaster. Seeing me cry, my parents were immediately flustered. What's wrong, my dear daughter? Did Logan bully you? I told my parents about my experience in the previous life. I thought they wouldn't believe it because being reborn was too incredible. Unexpectedly, they didn't doubt it at all. Instead, they were so angry that their eyes turned red. Damn it, these scumbags. I'll kill this bunch of bastards. Dare to bully my daughter. I'll fight them. I quickly comforted my angry parents. Don't be angry. I'm fine now. The most important thing for us now is to prepare for this natural disaster. Everyone became serious and quickly got in the car and went home. 4. My family's self-built building has 3 floors. Each floor is 120 square meters, and there is also a basement. The whole house has underfloor heating, and each bedroom has a heated bed. By the way, Dad, what do we burn for heating? Do we need to prepare some coal or something? My parents looked at me like I was a fool. My dear daughter, have you forgotten what our family does? I patted my head. I forgot to mention that my family runs a coal mine. My worry was completely unnecessary. After thinking for a while, I asked again, Mom, have you bought everything? When it came to this, my mother raised her chin proudly. Of course, your dad and I divided the work. He was responsible for buying some big items, and I was responsible for buying food and daily necessities. I've basically bought everything on your list. Then, my mother started to talk non-stop. I also bought things you didn't mention, like a lot of big grain corn, vermicelli, big hazelnuts, glutinous rice dumplings, frozen pears and persimmons, tangerines, frozen tofu, etc. I also bought 20 geese, 20 small native chickens, and several pieces of pork, beef, mutton, bullfrogs, red sausage, pine, nut, stuffed pork tripe. I also asked the butcher shop to make 100 caddies of sausage. We in northeast China have the habit of stockpiling winter vegetables. There are all kinds of things like Chinese cabbages, radishes, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and rutabagas. I dried some bean sprouts, eggplant dry, hazel mushrooms in summer, as well as dried fish, dried shrimps, scallop meat. There are also frozen corns in the fridge. By the way, I also pickled a big vat of pickled cabbage, and the sticky spicy hot pot you like is frozen for you. I felt at ease when I heard this. These things would be enough to eat for a year. I didn't know how long this disaster would last. In my previous life, I died on the 15th day of the apocalypse. And that day was the Lantern Festival. Logan's family snatched the food I had begged for with great effort, pushed me out of the door fiercely, and no matter how much I begged, they didn't open the door. Finally, I was frozen to death. I clearly remember Logan pushing me out while saying coldly, "One more person means one more mouth to feed. Food is limited. I can't abandon my parents." I sneered in my heart. This time, I'll see how filial he really is. 5. I had a good sleep. When I woke up the next day, I found many missed calls on my phone. All of them were from Logan. I ignored them because I had more important things to do. While there was still the internet, I downloaded a lot of TV dramas, variety shows, big movies, small movies, both serious and not so serious ones. I also downloaded tens of thousands of novels and countless single-player games. When everything was ready, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. The extreme cold apocalypse was coming in one day. I saw through the surveillance that Logan was furious. Ava actually dared to leave. "I'm so angry." His father squinted his small triangular eyes and snorted, "Son, your wife is really ignorant. She actually ran back to her parents' home on New Year's Eve. What bad luck." His mother gritted her teeth in hatred. "Son, I think you should beat her until she submits. As a wife, she's so bold. That won't do. Will she ride on your head and shit in the future?" Logan nodded and said harshly, "When she comes back, I must teach her a good lesson for her bad habits, leaving whenever she wants. What does that look like? Right, her temper should be tamed. A woman, she's really going too far." After they cursed for a while, they suddenly realized that it was time for New Year's Eve dinner. "Okay, son, since that good for nothing is not here, Mom will cook you something delicious." The old woman's eyes sparkled. "Son, the things her parents sent over taste really good." Logan asked in surprise, "Mom, didn't you say they were and that they were the garbage that country people ate?" The old woman gave Logan a reproachful look. "Can I praise the things from her parents' home? Her tail would go up to the sky then." "Son, you don't understand. You have to suppress her." Sure enough, the older, the wiser, "Mom, go and stew a chicken quickly. The small native chicken from her parents' home is so delicious." "Okay, okay, okay." The old woman went in response, but a moment later, a scream came from the kitchen. 6. "What's wrong, Mom?" Logan quickly ran to the kitchen. Now both of them were dumbfounded. The fridge was empty, with nothing in it. Where did all the things go? Did our house get burgled? Logan looked around and shook his head. A burglar wouldn't only steal the things in the fridge. He darkened his face and took out his phone to call me. After the call was connected, Logan's furious voice came. "Ava, why did you empty the fridge? What do you want us to eat? How can you be so selfish?" I snorted. "Weren't you disgusted to death? Why should my parents' things benefit you? I don't care what you eat. Eat nothing." Then I heard the people on the other end of the phone raging in vain. Too lazy to pay attention to them, I was just about to hang up when my dad snatched the phone and started scolding into the phone. "Eat whatever the hell you want, little bastard. Do you believe I'll smash you into a fried cake with a brick? Are you asking for a beating? Get the hell out of here." There was a moment of silence on the other end. Logan stammered and called out, "Dad." My dad roared, "Dante, I don't have a stupid son like you." The old woman on the other end was so angry that her voice was shaking. "So vulgar. Isn't there a reasonable person in your family? Ask your wife's mother to answer the phone." I sighed and handed the phone to my mom, who had been eager to take it for a long time. The old woman could only hope for the best. My mom's achievements: she chased a thief and scolded him for 8 streets. In the end, the thief cried and returned the things to my mom, and also got several punches. She had a 1-hour-long scolding match with a blackmail old man without repeating a word, and actually made the old man jump around in anger. "You old fool, faking a broken leg to stop my daughter from coming back. Why don't you fake Alzheimer's instead? Even if you're cured, you'll still be drooling like this, spending the new year at your house every year. What's the matter? Do you want to fill your asshole with lead? Disgusted with the things from our house? Only your house's things are good. The lice in your house have double eyelids. and the mosquitoes have leopard-like spots. No wonder Logan has become such a jerk. He takes after you two old fools. A bunch of stinky loaches think they're seafood just because they've touched a bit of seawater. The other side was so angry that they couldn't say a word. Only heavy panting could be heard. Apparently, they were extremely angry. What's wrong? You can't even fart after being beaten with 3 sticks. Has your whole family's mouth expired? Having a mouth is not as useful as wearing a pair of underpants and using it as an ass. Then, with an ow, the other side hung up the phone. My mom sneered contemptuously. Is that all? It's a piece of cake. I silently gave her a thumbs up. Come on, let's have New Year's Eve dinner. There were crispy pork slices, stewed chicken with mushrooms, braised 3 scale fish with sauce, braised pork elbow, colorful cold noodles, braised pork trotters, fried meat chunks, pork jelly, candied sweet potatoes, and boiled shrimp. I, who hadn't spent the new year at home for 3 years, was so excited that tears flowed from the corners of my mouth. Slow down, kid, no one's competing with you. My dad picked up a piece of pork elbow with skin covered in sauce for me, seeing me gobbling it up. My mom wiped the corners of her eyes with heartache. What a pity. What kind of life has my daughter been living outside? I stretched out my arms and hugged one of them with each hand. Dad, Mom, if the 3 of us are lucky enough to survive this natural disaster, I'll stay in the Northeast with you from now on. My dad opened a can of yellow peaches and divided a few pieces for each of us. Come on, eating yellow peaches can bless us to survive this disaster. Taking a bite, it was cold, sweet, and thirst-quenching. Instantly, I felt comfortable all over. Yellow peaches are the white moonlight in the hearts of people in Northeast China. It will bless every Northeast child. During the break of watching the Spring Festival Gala, I took a look at the surveillance. Logan seemed to have just come back from the outside, carrying a few take-out boxes in his hand and complaining, the New Year's Eve dinners in proper restaurants all need to be reserved in advance. I ran to several places and finally managed to buy a few dishes. This damned weather is too cold, and it's even snowing. Let's make do for now. I'll go to the supermarket to buy things tomorrow. I sneered in my heart. Logan, there won't be a tomorrow for you. Their family ate and complained. I casually turned off the surveillance, looking out of the window. The snow was getting heavier and heavier. At 11 o'clock at night, my mom cooked dumplings. I took a bite. It was pork and celery filling, dipping it in some garlic sauce and putting it in my mouth. It was full of fragrance. It was so delicious that I almost cried when I ate my mom's dumplings again. Mom, these dumplings are so delicious. Before, when spending the new year at my husband's family, Logan's mom could only make one kind of dumpling, which was leek and egg filling. I don't eat leeks. She would sneer at me, saying, young people these days are so hard to please. When we were young, we couldn't even get to eat. You don't know how lucky you are. Just eat more and you'll get used to it. Because of Logan, I forced myself to hold back the urge to flip the table. Now I finally understand that it was an obedience test from their family. In this new life, I'm not going to put up with it anymore. After the New Year's bell rang, the snow outside was getting heavier and heavier. I knew that what was coming had finally arrived. 7. This snow started to fall at night. At first, no one paid attention until the temperature dropped rapidly and there was a power and water outage. People finally realized that something was wrong. This was not an ordinary heavy snowstorm. Even the usually warm Haishur was extremely cold now. You know, Haishur rarely snowed before, let alone such a heavy snowstorm. At this time, the outside temperature had reached -40 degrees Celsius. Although it was cold, it was still bearable for the Northeast. I just didn't know if Logan's family, who had always lived in Haishur, could stand it. I wanted to see how they were doing, not because I cared about their lives or deaths, but purely to watch a joke. Due to the heavy snow, the surveillance signal was intermittent, sometimes there and sometimes not. Finally, in the afternoon of the first day of the Lunar New Year, a little signal was restored, through the surveillance. I saw Logan's family of 3, each wrapped in a thick quilt, but still shivering from the cold. Son, go out and buy something quickly. Mom is so hungry, Logan said in a trembling voice. Mom, it's such a cold day, and it's the first day of the Lunar New Year. All the shops are closed. Where do you want me to buy things? The old man glared at Logan unhappily. Then what should we do? There's nothing at home. Do you want me and your mom to starve to death? What kind of son are you? You can't even buy things, and you can't even control your wife. Logan felt so embarrassed being scolded by his dad that his face turned red and then white. Seeing this, the old woman quickly excused her son. Why blame the son? In the end, it's all that bitch Ava's fault. If she hadn't made such a fuss, how could we have no food? What's more hateful is that she even took away all the things in the fridge. She ran away, leaving us here to starve and freeze. When will this damned weather end? The old man squinted his cloudy eyes and said disdainfully, in my opinion, that little bitch may have already been frozen to death. It's already minus 40 degrees Celsius here. Isn't her hometown even colder? Humph, she insisted on going back to her parents' home. She deserves to be frozen to death. Logan, not knowing what he thought of, had a sneer on his lips. She still dared to be angry with me, this time. She must know she's wrong. I'll call her on video now to see how miserable she is. Make her beg me for mercy. Logan sent a video invitation with a proud look on his face. I casually clicked the answer button. After the video was connected, Logan said with a straight face, Ava, the feeling of being cold isn't good, is it? Do you know you're wrong? Do you still dare to go back to your parents' home casually? I think you're almost frozen stiff, right? As long as you apologize to me and my parents now, I'll forgive you and let you come back to live. You don't have to starve and freeze in that damned place. Me, starving, freezing. I touched my obviously round face and then looked down at the half-sleeve I was wearing. I was a bit speechless. Was he blind? Where did he see that I was starving and freezing? I wiped the thin sweat on my head and said to the screen, Logan, who are you saying is frozen stiff? Why are you all huddled under the thick quilt? Is it very cold at this time? Logan finally saw clearly that I was wearing thin clothes and had a ruddy complexion. There was no sign of me starving and freezing. On the contrary, they looked sallow, with white frost on their eyes and eyebrows, looking extremely funny. How is this possible? Isn't your hometown supposed to be colder? Their whole family rushed to the camera and stared at the screen in surprise. Son, where is she exactly? Is she lying to us? She didn't go back to her parents' home at all. She must have run to some other man's house. Exactly, no wonder she was in such a hurry to leave. She already had someone else outside. At this time, my mom's braised goose in an iron pot was just out of the pot, with a circle of cornmeal cakes pasted on it. My mom took the phone and, seeing the three people on the screen, almost burst out laughing. Good heavens, how did these bastards freeze into such a state? 8. The other side obviously also saw my mom on the screen and was even more surprised. Impossible, how can it be so warm there? I held a cake in one hand and picked up a piece of goose meat with chopsticks and put it into my mouth with the other hand. It was so fragrant, the potatoes were soft and flavorful, the vermicelli was soaked with sauce, and the goose meat was even more fragrant and tender. Taking a bite was extremely satisfying. Sure enough, as the saying goes, when it snows, no goose can leave the Northeast alive. I fully showed the fragrant braised goose in an iron pot, all kinds of delicious food on the table, the warm heated bed, and the indoor temperature of 25 degrees Celsius to the other side. Logan's family almost popped their eyes out. The old woman swallowed her saliva greedily. Daughter-in-law, quickly bring us the food. The old man looked at the goose with eager eyes but still ordered with a straight face, Ava, you're too selfish. Don't you see that your in-laws haven't eaten? You're hogging it all by yourself. Quickly bring us the stewed goose, otherwise, don't even think about entering our house again. Logan was also so greedy that his mouth was watering, but he was still being stubborn. Ava, I'm giving you a chance now. As long as you come and bring us food, I'll forgive you for going back to your parents' home without permission. The old woman immediately chimed in. Yes, we won't care anymore. Daughter-in-law, quickly bring us food, and bring all the chickens, ducks, fish, and meat from your parents' home. The more the better. We don't dislike them now. I stuffed another piece of goose meat into my mouth, chewed it, and swallowed it before lazily saying, but I dislike you. Your whole family are scumbags. I'm disgusted to death. My dad couldn't help but roast beside me. Still want to eat goose. I think they look like geese. Logan's family was so angry that they were about to die. Ava, what do you mean? Just because we didn't let you go back to your parents' home, you're so vengeful. which married woman goes back to her parents' home? Well, now we don't care anymore. What are you still being picky about? Do you really want to divorce me? Can you bear it? Looking at Logan's contemptuous and confident eyes, I really wanted to slap my past self twice. I was too good to him, which made him think he could control me. Logan and I were college classmates. After graduation, I followed him to develop in his hometown. At that time, I didn't think there was anything wrong with marrying far away. I was full of enthusiasm and thought that love was above all else. I always thought that with planes and high-speed trains, I could go home whenever I wanted, but in fact, whenever I wanted to go home, Logan's family would always come up with all kinds of tricks to stop me. I left my hometown for him, gave up everything, and compromised. Finally, I ended up being calculated by my husband's family in every way and died a tragic death. In this new life, I won't be that stupid anymore. Thinking of this, my eyes turned cold, and I said word by word to the screen, "Of course I don't want a divorce." Logan smiled triumphantly, with "I knew it" written all over his face. But the next second, he couldn't smile anymore, because I said leisurely, "Because compared to a divorce, I prefer to be a widow, Ava." Logan glared at me hatefully, his eyes almost on fire. If they could really catch fire, it would be great. He could warm himself up. The two old fools were so angry that they were panting heavily. Logan said harshly, "Ava, you're really something. Don't cry and beg me for forgiveness then." I shrugged indifferently. It wasn't certain who would beg whom. 9. On the second day of the apocalypse, my mom made pickled cabbage stewed with big bones, paired with the fragrant long-grained fragrant rice. I ate 2 big bowls, eating some scallions dipped in Zhuoxiangyuan soybean sauce. It was simply amazing. After the meal, my dad suggested playing mahjong. I was surprised. "Wait, Dad, how can we 3 people play? We're 1 short." My dad laughed. "Who said mahjong has to be played by 4 people? We can play 3-handed mahjong." My dad and my mom took turns winning. In a fit of anger, I gobbled up tangerines. After not winning for a long time, I started to blame bad luck, a bad position, bad weather, bad hand. Anyway, it definitely wasn't my poor skills. After a game of mahjong, I felt relaxed both physically and mentally. The big stone weighing on my chest seemed to have shattered. Although I lost, seeing my parents laughing so happily, I felt that everything was worth it. I opened the phone surveillance to check on my electronic pets. Wow, they were almost frozen like dogs. The old woman said weakly, "Son, Mom is so hungry. Go out and find something to eat quickly." Logan looked out of the window and saw the passers-by frozen stiff outside. He was so scared that he kept shaking his head. "Mom, it's minus 60 or 70 degrees Celsius outside now. If I go out, I'll be frozen to death." Logan's dad was a bit angry, "But we can't just wait to die at home. Do you expect us 2 old people to go out?" Logan said weakly. "There should be a rescue team." "Son, we don't have any food. How can we wait for the rescue team?" Logan seemed to think of something. He rummaged around the house and finally found a can of 8 treasure porridge in a corner. He regarded it as a treasure and opened the lid to pour it into his mouth. But the 8 treasure porridge had already been frozen into ice. He had to struggle to chew the frozen ice porridge. "Son, give Mom some quickly. Mom is starving to death." The old woman came up and reached out her hand to Logan, but Logan turned around, with his back to his mom, and was still desperately chewing the ice. "Son, what are you doing?" The old woman was so angry that she pounded Logan desperately. Logan's dad rushed over and snatched the 8 treasure porridge from his son's hand. Logan immediately let out a loud cry. The old man scolded him angrily. "It's just a bit of food. What are you screaming for? As a son, you should be filial to your father." It was not until Logan stretched out his peeling hand and shouted in pain that his parents noticed that Logan's skin and flesh were stuck to the iron can of the 8 treasure porridge. It was bloody and looked painful. The old man just gave a cold look and then stuffed the ice porridge into his mouth regardless. Maybe because the ice he swallowed was too big. The old man choked and pounded his chest desperately. The old woman was just about to go and help him when Logan stopped her. "Mom, there's only so much food. If one less person shares, we have a chance to survive." The old woman immediately stopped in her tracks. It seemed that being cold-blooded was hereditary. The two of them watched helplessly as the old man choked to death. When the old man stopped moving, the old woman hurriedly went over to grab the treasure porridge and was about to put it in her mouth, unexpectedly. Logan snatched it away and gave the old woman a hard push. The old woman, caught off guard, fell heavily to the ground with a click. If nothing unexpected happened, her leg was really broken this time. The old woman cursed angrily, "You unfilial son, do you want to kill me?" The excruciating pain and hunger made Logan's eyes turn red. He completely ignored his mother with the broken leg. He just kept pouring the ice cold porridge into his mouth. Sure enough, in the face of disaster, the evil in human nature was magnified to the extreme. 10. I didn't look at the surveillance anymore. Now I didn't care whether they were dead or alive. Every day, I had meals and chatted with my parents, and life was full of flavor. 3 days later, I received a video call from Logan. He was crying bitterly in front of the screen. "Ava, I was wrong, I'm really wrong. Can you have pity on me? A day of being husband and wife means 100 days of affection. For the sake of our feelings over so many years, can you bring me some food? Look, my parents are both dead, now no one can stop us. It was them who incited me before, insisting that I suppress your arrogance, but that wasn't my intention. I really love you, Ava, can you forgive me? It's like coming to nurse the child after it's already dead. Only now do you realize to wipe your runny nose." I simply spat out 2 words, "No." Logan flew into a rage out of humiliation, and his expression suddenly turned fierce. "Ava, you were reborn, right? It wasn't like this in the previous life. It should have been you who died." "Why, he was reborn too, that's great, but being reborn at this point, he was about to die again soon." "Logan, since you were also reborn, you should be very clear that your whole family deserves the end they have now. Have you forgotten how you treated me in the previous life?" Logan's body slid down little by little, and finally he slumped to the ground in despair. At this moment, the signal was completely cut off. In the following days, I lived very leisurely. I didn't have to think about anything. Every day, as soon as I opened my eyes, I indulged. Seeing that I had gained a lot of weight, I couldn't help but shout, "I want to lose weight." My dad said, "You're not fat at all. Why do you want to be so thin, looking all gaunt and ugly, like a mantis?" My mom said, "Okay. Eat some pig's trotters to supplement collagen, eat some shrimp, this won't make you fat, eat this meal first and lose weight tomorrow. It doesn't matter this one meal, eat some hawthorn, it helps with digestion." Me, 11, time passed in the blink of an eye. This natural disaster probably lasted for about half a year. One morning when I woke up, we finally saw the sun shining on the earth again. The ice and snow gradually melted, and all things began to recover. My parents and I hugged each other tightly, celebrating our survival. Electricity, communication, and the internet gradually began to be restored, seemingly not expecting such a big reaction from me. Logan was stunned. Gradually, people started to come out of their houses, seeing those familiar faces from the past. Everyone greeted each other cordially. People in northeast China originally had the habit of stockpiling, coupled with the fact that my parents had deliberately revealed something to the neighbors before most of the people around had survived. I received a call. "Is this MS, Ava? This is the Haisher police station. Now the government is counting casualties. I'm very sorry to inform you that your husband's entire family has passed away. Now we are notifying you to come and handle the aftermath." I could hardly suppress the corners of my mouth, which were even more difficult to hold back than an AK-47, but I still pretended to be sad. "How could this be? Woo-woo, please accept our condolences." After hanging up the phone, I couldn't help but laugh 3 times. Good and evil will eventually be rewarded. Heaven has eyes. I refused my parents' idea of coming with me and went to Haisher alone. After returning to the home that Logan and I used to have, I directly informed the funeral home to come and take the bodies away for cremation. After the cremation, the staff asked me to choose an urn. I waved my hand, casually took out a plastic bag, and said, "No need to be so troublesome, just put them in here." "Yes, put the ashes of all 3 people together." In the shocked eyes of the staff, I directly poured the ashes into it, then tied the bag and threw it into the trash can beside me without changing my expression. I sold the house at a low price. When buying the house, my parents paid half of the down payment, and I was also paying the monthly mortgage, so I took this money with a clear conscience. After everything was done, I set off to go home. After arriving at the station, I saw from a distance that my parents were eagerly staring at the exit. When they saw me come out, their eyes lit up. "Daughter, you're not leaving this time, right?" I smiled and took one of them by the arm, answering cheerfully, "Yeah, I'm not leaving, I'll stay in the Northeast." Story 2, 5 days before the apocalypse. Someone spread the news of the end of the world on the internet, and I, somewhat confused, hoarded a large amount of supplies. I intended to survive the apocalypse with these supplies, but unexpectedly, I was betrayed and pushed off the rooftop by my malicious best friend. In my next life, I am determined to survive until the end. 1. A cold dagger pierced my back, and a voice whispered in my ear, "Who knows when this apocalypse will end? You're just wasting food by living, better off dead, then." With a kick, I was sent tumbling down from the rooftop. As I fell, my eyes gradually lost their luster, the world turned dark, and I lost consciousness. After an unknown amount of time, a familiar voice reached my ears. "Lydia, look, that idiot is spreading the news of the apocalypse on the internet again. I wonder if they've gone mad from watching too much TV, actually believing in an apocalypse." Lydia is my name. But wasn't I killed by my malicious best friend and thrown off the roof? What is happening? And this familiar voice, isn't it that of my malicious best friend? Looking around at the familiar dorm, memories long buried in my mind began to resurface. At this moment, I finally understood. I had been reborn, back to before the outbreak of the apocalypse. "Lydia, why aren't you speaking? You don't really believe that idiot's words, do you?" Seeing me distracted and unwilling to speak, my friend Sarah wrapped her arm around me, leaning her face against my shoulder and asked, "In my previous life, I liked watching apocalyptic movies. Upon hearing the news, I thought it was wise to stock up on supplies, spending 6 months' worth of living expenses on rice, flour, and oil, which I stored in a rented house outside the school. After the apocalypse broke out, Sarah pleaded bitterly for me to take her in. Valuing our friendship, I risked the food shortage to help her, but who knew, within days, she would brutally turn against me. Acting out a real-life version of the farmer and the snake, now, living again, seeing her seemingly innocent appearance but knowing her ugly true nature, I felt nauseous. However, I held it in, as it was not yet time to let her suspect anything. Do you think I'd be foolish enough to believe such things? I was just thinking about the final exams. It's getting late, I should head to my elective class, and you can rest here in the dorm. I made up an excuse on the spot, which was timely because I had a class in the afternoon, so she wouldn't suspect anything. As I closed the door, I heard Sarah's voice rise faintly within the room. "Just because she has better grades and looks a bit prettier, one day, I'll make sure she's beneath my feet." Initially, I thought her betrayal was due to the complicated human nature during the apocalypse, but it turned out, it was all her pretense. She had been envious of me from the start, never truly wanting to be friends. Fortunately, having been reborn, I saw through it all. Without my help, let's see how she survives the apocalypse. 2. According to my memory, the news about the apocalypse was posted on the internet 5 days before it erupted. I don't know if the person who posted it was reborn like me, but the message appeared on all social platforms, and no one believed it. Even the poster almost got in trouble. Who would believe such baseless claims? Learning from the past, I just commented, "No harm in being prepared" under the post using an alias, and then I disappeared from the scene. Whether anyone believed it or not, it no longer concerned me. There were still 5 days left. In my previous life, due to lack of money and uncertainty about whether the apocalypse would actually happen, I only spent half a term's living expenses on some basic supplies, which barely got me through a short period before I tragically died at Sarah's hands. After being reborn, naturally, I would prepare everything thoroughly. Although I hardly had any money on me, my good credit made borrowing a breeze. With just one loan, I effortlessly secured several $100,000. Once I had the funds, the next step was to construct a sturdy shelter. The house I rented was about 5 kilometers from the school, located in a neighborhood born from the economic bubble. It was a remote area with a low occupancy rate. The building I lived in had 18 floors, with only 2 apartments on each floor. According to what I knew, the apartment opposite was also for rent, but it remained unoccupied even as the apocalypse approached. Now, I planned to rent the opposite apartment as well and transform it along with my current one into a shelter. I contacted the agent and told him a classmate urgently needed to rent the apartment, which prompted him to leave the keys in the mailbox downstairs after I transferred him 6 months' rent. Given that rentals were rare in that complex, the agent was naturally thrilled to make a deal. I didn't rush to pick up the keys downstairs. Instead, I went back home first and started to plan my next steps with pen and paper. Essentials like food, water, and medicine had to be prepared, but the most crucial part was how to transport these supplies without attracting attention. In my previous life, I hadn't bought much, and since the occupancy in the complex was low, a few bags of rice and flour didn't raise any eyebrows. However, delivering supplies by the truckload to the complex would definitely be noticed. I needed a plan. As I pondered, I listed out all the items I needed to buy in a notebook. There was a lot to prepare, especially since I had experienced the apocalypse in my previous life and knew which issues couldn't be overlooked. But now, with only 5 days, even though I knew exactly what was needed, I had to consider both time and cost. After writing the shopping list, I started by cleaning up the room. I threw out all the clutter that was just taking up space without any use, but when I saw the contents of a black bag left under the bed by a previous tenant, who had forgotten it and never showed up despite saying he would, I hesitated. Let it be. It might come in handy. It took me 3 hours and several trips to dispose of all the useless stuff. Next, I had to figure out how to transport the supplies without anyone noticing. The residency rate in the complex was already low, and there were only a few security guards. Plus, with most young people at work during the day, the guard monitoring the CCTV often fell asleep. I quietly made my way to the underground parking lot, adjusted all the cameras that could potentially capture my actions, and, ensuring that no one would notice, I began my plan. Firstly, as a standard procedure and to make my hideout secure, I had the construction team replace all the windows with the strongest available on the market under the guise of preparing a marital home. They were reinforced and fitted with one-way film, following the survival novel's guidelines, even though I lived on the top floor and it was hard to see inside without the film. In an age of technological explosions, the potential dangers were too vast. Anyone with a telescope or a drone could easily become a threat. Failure often stems from overlooking the small details, so I had to consider everything. As for the door, it was replaced with a blast-resistant one, though its effectiveness remained to be proven. Meanwhile, I secretly had workers install some solar panels. I wasn't expecting a luxurious life post-apocalypse. Having just enough power to run essential electronics and surveillance would suffice. Using the urgency of an impending marriage as a cover, and paying double the market rate, I set about securing my future in this precarious world. The construction team assured me that they would complete the work within 3 days. The security in this residential area is quite poor, with a low occupancy rate in this building. One can simply enter through the underground garage and take the elevator without encountering the property management or security. All the young people have gone to work. As for the elderly who have nothing better to do than to wander around, a simple activity like distributing eggs at the entrance would surely attract them. Having discussed the renovation requirements, I paid the deposit to the construction team and then focused all my efforts on stocking up on supplies. In the post-apocalyptic stories I've read, protagonists often concoct various reasons to buy water and food from the supermarket to avoid arousing suspicion. Yet such actions are ironically conspicuous. Buying large amounts of water and food in the supermarket would certainly raise eyebrows. I found some local wholesalers online and ordered water, various canned foods, compressed biscuits, individual rations, and items like dried meat and mini hot pots, arranging for delivery in 3 days. Compared to supermarkets, these wholesalers not only offer cheaper goods but also routinely deliver to various retail outlets. So my large order wouldn't draw their attention. Bigger clients would be their main focus. Besides water, I didn't order much of the other items, just 10 boxes of each. Firstly, renting and renovating the apartment had already cost me a significant amount, leaving me with little cash on hand. Secondly, items like mini hot pots aren't exactly economical or sustainable like grains. Isn't it much better to fry a bag of rice or flour, which can last a long time, in a post-apocalyptic world? Survival is what matters, not luxury. I visited a grain and oil wholesale market farther away and ordered 30 bags of flour and 50 bags of rice, each weighing 20 kilograms. I also bought ample supplies of oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar, with delivery scheduled for 4 days later. I also purchased several boxes of high-calorie or nutritionally complete items like chocolate, soy milk powder, and baby formula. As for toiletries like sanitary pads, toothbrushes, and toothpaste, as well as some common medicines, none of which are restricted, I distributed my purchases across several pharmacies, buying just a few boxes at each, which went unnoticed. After resolving the supplies issue, I returned home exhausted and lay down on the bed, thoroughly enjoying the rest. During this time, Sarah called me, asking in her sycophantic manner why I hadn't returned to the dormitory after class. I dismissively told her I was out and wouldn't return today, then hung up. Tomorrow the house would be renovated, and I tried hard to recall everything that happened in my previous life to see if there were any oversights. With these supplies, I could survive for quite a long time, but no one knows when the crisis will end. Canned foods and dried meats generally have a long shelf life. Self-heating hot pots and similar items can last up to 3 years. Indeed, in a post-apocalyptic scenario, one doesn't need to eat well. Long-term lack of fresh fruits or vegetables can be compensated with vitamin supplements. However, no matter how much you store, there will come a day when it runs out. What then? Sustainable living and self-sufficiency are what I should be considering. Suddenly, I felt that I had bought too little, and even thought of utilizing the rooftop terrace. I spent another night carefully thinking everything over, jotting down all conceivable necessities until my head ached, and then I fell asleep. After a night's rest, my mind was refreshed. The next morning, after handing over the keys to the workers, I continued with my purchasing plans. I found a new grain and oil wholesale market and ordered 10 bags each of soybeans, red beans, and green beans. These beans could not only be cooked directly for meals, but also provide essential nutrients. I can still grow bean sprouts. As for the rooftop, I hadn't figured out how to use it effectively, but I still went ahead and bought seeds, soil, and fertilizer. My approach was, be mentally prepared, act later. After preparing the food, the next thing to prepare was weapons. I bought some self-defense weapons popular among single women online, like anti-wolf spray and stun batons. I was well aware that these items might not be very useful to me, but holding them gave me a bit of extra security, and I also stocked up on things like drone batteries. Once everything was ready, I returned to school to continue my classes. Sarah kept asking what I had been up to these past few days, but I brushed her off with various excuses. Previously, I would never have kept such things from her. 3 days passed quickly, and the construction team called me to come and inspect their work. After checking the newly fortified doors and windows, I promptly paid the final installment and notified the wholesalers to start delivering the supplies I had ordered. The local ladies were slowed down by their stockpile of eggs, and batch after batch of their goods were also delivered. Everything was moving in the right direction. Just when I thought I could sneak all the supplies into my home unnoticed, the unexpected happened. Why did you buy so much stuff? You don't actually believe those online doomsday predictions, do you? I was busy directing the workers to move things into my house when I heard a voice from behind. I turned around. It was someone I had seen a few times, a resident of our building and apparently a relationship broadcaster, somewhat of a minor internet celebrity. He hardly ever left his apartment, but today, for some reason, I ran into him in the underground garage. Bad luck, I muttered to myself. Turning back to him, I smiled and said, "Oh, it's nothing much. I'm about to graduate, and I'm hosting a party with my classmates tomorrow, just getting everything ready ahead of time." I see. He didn't say much else, though his eyes kept darting to the boxes in the workers' hands, trying to make out what was inside. After realizing he couldn't tell, he left the garage. It seems impossible to keep this a secret from everyone. Luckily, the grain and oil were already moved up, and these were just chocolates and dried meats. During our conversation, I made a show of sending voice messages to several classmates, trying to make him believe my story so he wouldn't covet my supplies if the apocalypse did arrive. After this minor episode, no other incidents occurred. Under my direction, the delivery staff efficiently moved all the supplies to my upstairs room. In the following days, I purchased 2-door barricades and quietly installed numerous security cameras throughout the building. After adjusting the cameras to ensure stable signal and coverage, I never went out again. 2 days later at noon, I simply ate something and then sat by the window, quietly waiting for the apocalypse to arrive. In my previous life, I was also sitting here waiting for the apocalypse, only back then I was worried that if the online rumors were nonsense, I might have to survive on the grains in my room for the rest of the year. Now, I was certain the apocalypse would come. At exactly 2 p.m., the bright sunny sky suddenly darkened. The golden sun visibly turning a sinister black-red at a speed visible to the naked eye. Everyone who noticed this phenomenon was stunned and looked up at the sky. Many people took photos with their phones and posted this strange occurrence on various social media platforms. Some called their friends and family to alert them to check the outside situation. As the sun turned black-red, the entire sky gradually turned blood-red. Moments later, thick droplets began to fall from the sky. It was raining. But not normal rain. Many people were frightened by this unprecedented phenomenon. Despite the bizarre rain pouring down on him, he remained unfazed. The more prudent individuals sought shelter from the rain in the mall buildings. News of the strange phenomenon quickly topped the trending lists on various platforms within 2 minutes, sparking widespread discussion about whether something significant was about to happen. In less than 5 minutes, those who had been drenched by the rain began to attack people around them frantically. As if driven mad, it seemed that the only sounds left on the vast land were wails, screams, and cries for help. The transformation from the appearance of the phenomenon to these rain-soaked individuals turning into zombies took merely 20 minutes. The entire city descended into chaos in an instant, resembling a hell on earth, with screams and wails echoing continuously. A pedestrian was struck by a speeding car, and the bewildered driver got out to check on the person's injuries. Taking advantage of the distraction caused by the phenomenon, I cut the power to the elevator, locked the security door, and installed a crash stop device. I had rented both apartments on the 18th floor, the top level, ensuring no one else was around to worry about being blocked from their home. After securing everything, I picked up a pair of binoculars to observe the situation outside the complex. Continuously, individuals were being tackled to the ground by mutated zombies, only to slowly rise and join the ranks of the undead. The air was thick with the scent of blood. Even having experienced this in a past life, the scenes before me left me unsettled for a long time, causing me to vomit my lunch. After cleaning up the vomit and calming myself, I spent the evening by the window, observing the situation inside and outside the complex while noting the habits of the zombies. Through observation and some memories from a previous life, I gained a fair understanding of these zombies. These zombies were exceptionally sensitive to sounds and the scent of blood. Even the slightest noises and smells could attract their attention. Their speed was not slow, and they seemed to operate like perpetual motion machines, never showing signs of fatigue. I witnessed a zombie relentlessly pursue an adult man until he collapsed from exhaustion. With the zombies' pace unaltered, the increase in zombie numbers was much faster than anticipated. By evening, the streets were as silent as still water. This silence became even more terrifying at night, as if it could devour souls, with only the occasional screams and wails confirming that I was still alive. 2 days have passed since the zombie outbreak, during which communication signals were intermittent. Television broadcasts from relevant departments continually reported on the situation outside, urging people not to leave their homes. In group chats and social circles, people were either grateful to be alive or sharing their plight of being trapped without food, willing to pay high prices for deliveries. However, in these times, everyone was wary for their own safety, and no amount of money could persuade anyone to risk their lives. The occupancy rate in the complex was not high, peaking at just a few hundred households. After the apocalypse struck, within just 2 days, only about 50 households remained. No one from our building spoke up in the property group chats, leaving me unsure if I was the only one alive. Some suggested using this time to band together and search for supplies, but most people had some food reserves at home and preferred to wait for rescue. Looking at the piles of supplies in my room, I stayed silent, believing it was best to let them think I was already dead. I cooked a self-heating hot pot, my first meal since the outbreak started. After being hungry for 2 days, anything tasted delicious. Days passed by steadily, 10 days went by peacefully, but during this time, communication signals worsened, and even those who had been calm in the group chats began to panic. Their food reserves were depleted, and there was no sign of impending rescue. The broadcasts offered comforting words but no useful information. Finally, Some couldn't bear it any longer and began venturing out in succession to search for supplies. Some formed small groups, armed with kitchen knives, rolling pins, and steel pipes, while others moved alone, cautiously avoiding zombies. One person, overly nervous, stepped on a beer bottle and fell to the ground. The noise attracted about 7 or 8 zombies roaming nearby, who immediately pounced towards them. The fallen person hadn't even gotten up before a zombie knocked him down and bit into his stomach, his screams echoing through the neighborhood. Seeing this, the others lost all courage to venture out and started running back in fear. Those who ran slowly, fearing they would become the next zombie meal, pushed their companions behind them to attract the zombies' attention, buying themselves a chance to escape. From upstairs, I watched this scene through a telescope and couldn't help but sigh. Just a dozen days into this apocalypse, and already there are those who, to save their own lives, disregard the lives of others. I fear the future will hold even worse. That afternoon, I received a call from Sarah. "Lydia, how are you? I've been so worried about you." "I'm fine. Still safe for now." My voice was somewhat cold. I found it almost amusing how she said she was worried. It had been over 10 days since the zombie outbreak. And if she had truly been worried, she would have called sooner. Everyone knew she had run out of food in her dorm and was likely calling to see if I had any food. I wondered what kind of bad karma I must have had in a past life to believe such nonsense. I guessed she would next ask about supplies. Sure enough, before I could even finish, Sarah's voice came through the phone. "Lydia, do you have any supplies? I'm trapped at school and haven't eaten in a day." She had said the same thing in another life. I had felt sorry for her then, told her to come stay with me immediately, and taught her how to avoid zombies, but then she betrayed me, stabbing me and pushing me off the rooftop. Who would have thought the apocalypse on the internet was real? I wasn't prepared at all. If it wasn't for the 2 packs of noodles at home, I would have starved by now. I've already finished the noodles and have been surviving on a few sips of water these past days. I feigned weakness, complaining about the hardships I faced these past days. Upon hearing this, Sarah's voice clearly carried a hint of disappointment, and she hung up before I could finish speaking. Some people are like that. They don't bother speaking to you unless they see some benefit. But there's no need to hold grudges with a dead person, right? Today, feeling good, I took some lamb and beef from the fridge and prepared to enjoy a delightful hot pot meal. This was a feast, especially after eating instant noodles for so many days straight. Even my stomach, accustomed to both technology and hard times, couldn't take it anymore. This hot pot wasn't just any meal. I planned to watch some romantic stories about orange cats during it. Just as I was about to turn to my computer, a familiar face appeared on the surveillance monitor in the underground garage. My close friend, after I explicitly told her I had no supplies, had come here anyway, accompanied by a man. If I hadn't installed surveillance throughout the building and used 90% of the solar power for these monitors, I wouldn't have expected her to show up now. Why would she come here if she doesn't know I have supplies? And how did she get here? Questions swirled in my mind. In another life, it was under my guidance that she found a secluded path into the neighborhood. I had discovered it by accident. A path not shown on navigation software and typically devoid of zombies, without my guidance. How did she manage to find her way here this time? And the man following her was someone I had never seen before, about 30 years old. They're definitely not students from our school. How did they meet? I was carefully monitoring their every move. Apart from Sarah looking a bit disheveled, there was nothing unusual. However, the strange man was holding a fire axe, which seemed to have some black bloodstains on it. The surveillance wasn't clear enough for me to tell whether it was zombie blood or not. The thought that they might have been fighting zombies all the way here crossed my mind. A chilling thought indeed. Anyone capable of killing zombies is definitely more than I can handle. Even though I had already bought items like a tang sword, compound crossbow, and pepper spray, these were no match for a man, especially for a girl like me with no physical strength. They're more for show than practical use. And then there's Sarah. In my past life, she didn't hesitate to betray me, and now, she managed to get here safely from school. She's no ordinary woman. Having been naive before, I no longer trust human nature in this post-apocalyptic world. If I end up in their hands, my fate would be worse than in my previous life. No matter what, I must find a way to eliminate them. As soon as this thought emerged, My brain started working frantically, constantly analyzing the gap between my enemies and me. An idea sparked by a mental image caught my attention. On the 13th floor of this building, there were two zombies. In my past life, when Sarah came looking for me, she encountered these two zombies on the 13th floor. Had it not been for my use of a cell phone ringtone to distract the zombies, leading them to the other end of the hallway and letting her escape, she would have been killed by the zombies. This time, however, I planned to use these two zombies to kill Sarah. Which seemed almost ironic. After confirming the presence of the zombies on the 13th floor through the surveillance system, a simple plan formed in my mind. I picked up the compound crossbow, grabbed the Bluetooth speaker and the black bag from under the bed, and rushed downstairs. The elevator was out of order. Sarah and her companion would have to climb to the 13th floor while watching out for possible zombies. So they wouldn't reach it before me. I had time to prepare. I stealthily arrived on the 13th floor, connected the Bluetooth speaker to my phone, and placed it in an inconspicuous spot near the entrance. My phone had a music app already open, just waiting for me to press the play button, which would then blast music from the speaker. I went up to the 14th floor, set up the contents of the bag, and covered them with a simple disguise. Then, I aimed the compound crossbow at the staircase of the 13th floor. As soon as they showed up, I would shoot the crossbow at the man, play the music to attract the zombies, and use them to deal with the intruders. It wasn't a guaranteed win, just a risky gamble. I was betting on my luck, betting that I could hit the man. I was also betting that upon hearing the sound, the zombies would immediately attack them. If successful, good; if not, once they broke into my house, death was the only exit left for me. Time slowly passed, and Sarah and her companion were moving slower than I had anticipated. My hand, gripping the compound crossbow, was already sweaty and sticky, making me uncomfortable, and my body was numb from maintaining the same position for so long. I dared not move, even keeping my breathing at the lowest possible rate. I feared any slight noise might attract the zombies' attention, and they would deal with me first. Be ready to shoot the crossbow at any moment. When the man saw Sarah waving, he followed her over. The moment he appeared, I didn't hesitate to pull the crossbow trigger. The dark crossbow bolt emitted a faint chill as it whooshed towards the man. A clang sound chilled my heart immediately. Clearly, luck was not on my side. The bolt missed the man by about half a meter, which was not a small error. Lydia, Sarah was briefly stunned. Then a smile appeared on her face. I guessed she'd be prepared with supplies, just as I thought. Kill her, and her stuff will be ours. Sarah and the man spotted me. Their voices were low. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but the undisguised intent to kill was clear on their faces. Run, that was my only thought, besides clearly knowing that I was no match for Sarah and the man. Another reason was that my Bluetooth speaker hadn't been activated yet. The zombies were attracted by the sound of the crossbow bolt hitting the wall and were heading this way. The zombies moved quickly and were soon right behind Sarah and the man. There are zombies, Sarah's voice. Damn it, she ambushed us. She's going to pay. Let's shake off the zombies first. Once they're gone, we'll have all the time to deal with that wench. They too heard the zombies. In such a situation, they couldn't afford to focus on me. Taking advantage of this, I pressed the play button. The connected Bluetooth speaker started emitting sound. Pleasant goat and big wolf, don't look at me just as a sheep. Originally attracted by the noise, the zombies, upon hearing the music, became even more frenzied, like wolves that had spotted a lamb. They roared and ran towards Sarah and her companion. Even zombies outside were drawn by the sound and started moving towards the building. Sarah and the man must have cursed me countless times in their minds. But they didn't even have time to speak. Two zombies blocked their path downstairs, and it was unknown how many more would pour into the building. They could only follow my lead and move upwards, which was exactly what I had hoped to see. Not long after the footsteps started, a scream echoed through the building. I knew that my backup plan had worked. The scream did not stop me from fleeing. I ran back to the 18th floor as fast as I could, locked the stairwell door, placed a door stopper, and double-locked my room door, all in one go. After all that, I finally breathed a sigh of relief and sat down to watch the monitors. The 14th floor monitor showed only a pool of blood and a thick arm, clearly belonging to the man, just as I thought he had been devoured by the zombies. On the 15th floor monitor, the man's figure appeared. He barely looked human anymore. his thigh was gnawed down to the bone. His stomach had a bowl-sized hole, and fluid was continuously leaking out. The remaining arm hung barely attached, as if it might fall off at any moment. It's strange, zombies, if it were a normal person, injured like that, survival would be impossible, yet, the zombified man could still walk. As I was reflecting on this, a terrifying thought suddenly crossed my mind. Blinded by victory, I had forgotten. Sarah was missing. I hastily checked all the surveillance feeds. There was no sign of Sarah, nor any trace of her being bitten. I reviewed the previous surveillance footage and saw what happened after I left. The man stepped on a trap in his panic as he was going upstairs. The screams and the smell of blood drove the zombies into a frenzy, and they threw themselves at him with even more vigor. Seeing this, Sarah decided to abandon the man and leave, but he grabbed her. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but from their expressions and lip movements, it was clear that the man wanted Sarah to take him with her. But she refused. During their struggle, Sarah suddenly pulled out a dagger and stabbed the man, pushing him towards the approaching zombies while he was still alive. It was just like what she had done to me in the past. The footage from before the surveillance shocked me, and it took me a long time to recover and finally understand why Sarah had been able to kill me without hesitation in our previous life. She was ruthless, completely ruthless from beginning to end. The surveillance continued to play. After killing the man, Sarah looked towards the camera. Her expression was fierce, as if she had anticipated that I would definitely see this scene. Then she took the opportunity while the zombies were devouring the man to escape. Sarah was no longer seen in the footage. Although I had installed surveillance cameras in strategic locations, they couldn't cover every part of the floor. She must have guessed that I could see her through the surveillance and deliberately avoided the cameras. I had a feeling that Sarah was probably not dead, but what would she come up with next to deal with me? It was the 28th day of the apocalypse. Because of Sarah's presence, I hadn't felt like eating properly for the past few days. I was either nibbling on compressed biscuits or eating some chocolate, wasting the ample supplies I had prepared. However, the dangerous situations I had imagined didn't occur, and the days were surprisingly peaceful. Gradually, I let my guard down and returned to my normal life, enjoying my days with plenty to eat and drink. I even got so bored that I pulled out the flowers and plants on the balcony and planted some vegetables instead. I even tried sprouting some beans at one point. I watched countless videos on how to make bean sprouts, but my lack of practical skills led to nothing but wasted soybeans. However, I am good at diverting my attention. I then focused on the rooftop garden, waiting for a day when I felt like it to bring up the soil I had bought earlier and plant something. In stark contrast to me were the other survivors in the neighborhood. As resources became increasingly scarce, some people turned their attention to other survivors. A man named Thomas gathered several followers, feigning helplessness to gain others' trust. When communication was still available, Thomas repeatedly claimed in the homeowners group chat that he had no food at home and hadn't eaten for days, begging others to help him. A couple felt sorry for them and agreed to share some of their supplies, asking them to come up and collect them, but their act of kindness cost them their lives. The moment they opened the door, Thomas's accomplices, who had been hiding outside, rushed in. Not only did they take over their food, but they also killed the couple and threw them off the building. They deceived several households in the neighborhood this way. After the internet was cut off, they began breaking into homes with tools to search for supplies. Many survivors were caught after they broke in, relying on their strength. Young women became their playthings, and anyone who resisted even slightly was killed and thrown from the building. There weren't many zombies wandering around the neighborhood. Most had been drawn to the building where I lived by the music I used to deal with Sarah. Thus, as they searched homes one by one for supplies, my building, which was swarming with zombies, remained relatively untouched. Miraculously, I evaded their search. Time passed quietly again, and when I checked the calendar, the day of the apocalypse had already been 2 months ago. My life hadn't changed much during this period. Bored, I spent my days binge-watching shows and reading books, some of which I had only heard of during my school days but had never read. My skills with the composite crossbow had also greatly improved. Should I encounter the same situation as before, I believe I could confidently hit a man. The zombies downstairs hadn't changed either. I seriously doubted they still followed the natural laws applicable to carbon-based life forms. 2 months without food or drink, yet they still roamed around the neighborhood. stirred into excitement by the slightest movement. However, their presence was a blessing in disguise, as it kept my living place undiscovered. As for Thomas and his group, their days were getting worse. The remaining resources in the neighborhood had been completely scavenged by them. After exhausting the supplies, Thomas began to use the lives of women and children to blackmail their relatives into scavenging for more resources outside. Initially, these people, held hostage by Thomas, obediently worked, risking their lives to find supplies. Thomas and his group had plenty to eat and drink and began to vent their frustrations on the women. One woman, unable to bear the humiliation, jumped from a building. A man, seeking revenge for his wife, slit his wrist while scavenging, attracting a horde of zombies. Although Thomas's group narrowly escaped, the large number of zombies now in the neighborhood made it impossible for them to venture out for supplies. With the zombies downstairs shielding me, I led a quiet life until suddenly there was a noise outside my door. Someone seemed to be trying to pry open the security door by the stairs. I quickly checked the surveillance and found that the camera on the 18th floor was missing, which was definitely tampered with. Luckily, I had anticipated such an event and had discreetly installed a pinhole camera. Turning on the camera, the long-missing Sarah and a minor internet celebrity, who had seen me moving supplies, appeared on the screen. "This is the place, but the door is blocked. We'll need to put some effort into pushing it open." Sarah's voice came from the monitor. "I saw her buying a lot of stuff, said it was for a party. Are you sure there's anything left by now?" "What party? This bitch is lying to you. Why did you only prepare so little supplies after believing those online posts?" Sarah complained a bit. "I alone could make it last half a year by being frugal. Who knew you would join me later? I didn't eat for free. And you didn't do less of that thing either. The price of a pack of instant noodles outside. Think about how much you've eaten from me. Besides, if it wasn't for me saving you, would you still be alive?" "What do you mean by that?" Before they could start prying the door, they began to argue. Sarah seemed angry but then seemed to think of something. "Don't worry, this bitch definitely has plenty of good stuff. Once we get this door open, we'll have good days ahead of us." After saying this, she even started getting cozy with the internet celebrity. Damn it, I couldn't help but curse out loud. Watching them on the monitor was so disgusting I almost threw up my meal from the day before yesterday. Fortunately, they hadn't forgotten their main task, to get the door open. After a while, they tried to figure out how to pry open the security door, but the door had already been locked by me with a chain and blocked with a doorstop. Without any tools, they couldn't possibly open it. This allowed me to finally relax. They would have to forcefully break the security door to open it. Forced entry would create a huge noise, and with zombies on both the 13th floor and downstairs, I doubted they would dare to make enough noise to attract the zombies. Just as I expected, after realizing they couldn't open the door with their bare hands, the two started looking for tools somewhere. They first tried to pick the lock. Spending a long time at it, the lock broke. But they still couldn't open the security door. Then, they attempted to forcibly break through the door, but the noise made by the axe against the door forced them to stop their actions. As such, the two lingered outside on the staircase for a week without finding a way in. Afraid of zombies, they only dared to wield their knives against the weaker ones, yet they were also terrified that breaking down the door would attract the zombies' attention. Once again, the zombies became my protectors. Over time, the two of them started arguing more frequently. The internet celebrity blamed Sarah for consuming too much of their food supply, while Sarah complained that the internet celebrity was good for nothing but sleeping. Their mental states deteriorated, and eventually, they stopped showing up. The following days were unusually calm. Neither the internet celebrity nor Sarah came by again. However, I was somewhat afraid. This feeling was strange, much like the tense quiet before a storm. So oppressive that it was hard to breathe. Then one night, the sound of glass shattering downstairs startled me, followed by something being thrown down. Zombies downstairs were attracted by the noise and rushed over, feasting on whatever lay on the ground. The sound frightened me, and I felt something was amiss. I stayed up all night, watching from the window, too scared to sleep. Nothing else happened until dawn, and only then did I slowly close my eyes. But soon, I was awakened by the sound of an axe breaking through a door. I quickly turned on the surveillance to see two middle-aged men with axes, working together to hack at the security door. Behind them, Sarah was dressed flamboyantly, leaning close to a burly man. I recognized the burly man as Thomas, the leader of the gang of robbers. Since a large number of zombies had invaded the complex, they had been trapped inside the building, and by now, they should have starved to death. How could they still be so energetic? Recalling yesterday's noises and the disappearance of the internet celebrity, I hypothesized. Sarah and the internet celebrity had known about Thomas and his group in my building. They had been protected by zombies on one of the floors below mine and had evaded Thomas's search. When the internet celebrity's supplies ran out, Sarah brought him to try and steal my supplies, but they dared not make any noise. Running out of food, Sarah killed the internet celebrity and survived on his corpse for a while. Facing imminent starvation, Sarah made a desperate move by throwing the remains of the internet celebrity downstairs to distract the zombies and found Thomas, who was also surviving by cannibalism. She brought them here. This was a dire situation for me. They were over a dozen, armed with axes, and could break through the security door in minutes. Even though I had upgraded to a blast-resistant door, it would only be a matter of time before they broke through. I had seen these people commit murder, sparing not even infants. Each had several lives on their hands. If they managed to break in, I couldn't even imagine my fate. Even if I surrendered all my food, they wouldn't spare me. Thomas and his group had lost all humanity. My crossbow had significantly improved accuracy, but relying on it to eliminate all of them at once would only provoke a violent retaliation after they broke through the door. Was there really no way out? Standing by the window, I thought that even if I jumped, I shouldn't fall into their hands, but that would only benefit the scum outside. No, I was determined to go down fighting, with a resolve to die. I looked at the zombies in the complex, intending to attract them all here. There were only a few dozen zombies wandering around, not enough to kill Thomas and his group. What if I attracted all the zombies within a kilometer? I retrieved a drone I had bought while stockpiling supplies. Clenching my teeth, I used a dagger to slice open my arm, allowing the red liquid to cover the entire body of the drone. I hooked up another fully charged phone and looped the song, "Don't Think I'm Just a Sheep," at maximum volume. After all that, I quickly bandaged my arm and flew the drone out of the house. I had bought it online for just under 20,000 yuan, with a battery life of 70 minutes, carrying a phone at an altitude of several meters. Covering a round trip of 2 kilometers was no problem at all. The air was thick with a ghastly scent of blood mixed with the magical voices of Pleasant Goat and Big Wolf. This immediately agitated the wandering zombies, who, as if injected with adrenaline, rushed towards the source of the blood scent. Through the drone's transmitted images, I saw that no sooner had it flown out of the neighborhood than hundreds of zombies gathered and followed it. As the drone ventured further, the number of zombies continued to increase. Outside, Sarah and the others had successfully broken through the security door at the stairwell entrance. Thomas, immersed in joy and embracing his lady, directed his lackeys to break down the door, oblivious to the music playing. Inwardly, I prayed that the main door would hold until I managed to draw the zombies in. Only later did I realize I had been overly concerned. Made in China, it allowed no disrespect. The strength of the explosion-proof door exceeded my expectations. Thomas's men took turns attacking. Despite hacking and chopping for 40 minutes, they only left superficial marks on the door. Meanwhile, I had drawn over 1,000 zombies from outside the complex using the drone. These zombies entered the complex en masse, following the drone, and gradually ascended to the 18th floor. By the time Thomas, Sarah, and the others heard the song, the zombies had already targeted them like vengeful spirits, pouncing without giving them any chance to resist. Sarah was the most unfortunate. She didn't even get a chance to mutate before being torn apart and devoured by dozens of zombies. Thanks to the explosion-proof door, these zombies didn't discover me. I continued to operate the drone, drawing away most of the zombies. The remaining ones continued to act as security outside the door. I was rescued 430 days after the crisis erupted, and the authorities interrogated me. I reported in detail all the actions I had taken during the apocalypse, providing relevant evidence without any concealment. They carefully examined all the evidence and then looked at me. "It seems you need to participate in some labor. We need to rebuild. And we can't do it without talented people like you. What, you don't want to join?"